All right, we're back for another episode of the Mortgage Broker Podcast. We are continuing on with the Behind the Broker series, and we have a very special guest, Alex D'Angelo, a top agent with a Better Way Mortgage Group. Really interesting path in going from banker to broker. He shares a lot of the good and the bad in that transition, and there's some really good nuggets in regards to time blocking and a really good book that was actually brought up that we'll leave for the rest of the episode for you guys to find out what that is. But I think you're going to enjoy this one, so we'll pass it off to Alex now. Welcome to the Mortgage Broker Podcast, tailor-made for Canadian mortgage industry professionals. Proudly presented by a Better Way Mortgage Group, this podcast is your trusted source for insider insights, market updates, and strategies to elevate your career in the ever-evolving world of mortgage brokering. Whether you're a seasoned broker with a Better Way Mortgage Group or an industry enthusiast looking to stay ahead, our episodes are designed to empower you with the knowledge and tools you need to excel in the Canadian mortgage space. All right, we're back, and we're so glad to have Alex D'Angelo, one of our top brokers from a Better Way Mortgage Group, and hails from North Burnaby. I know he likes to touch on that, so we're very happy to have Alex here and get into what makes him tick. This is another episode of the Behind the Broker series, which we've had some great feedback on, and we're really excited to just dive into somebody like yourself, just given that you have a bit of a different path coming into the mortgage channel than maybe others do, and I think there's a lot that you can add to that. And yeah, so really just excited to pass the mic off to you and get a little introduction about yourself and your background.
Sure, yeah. So the game plan for 15-year-old Alex was never to be in finance at all. It was never the game plan. I was dating a girl in university. Her uncle had a couple glasses of wine and was a VP for a bank at a family barbecue. He said, "You should come work for the bank." And I said, okay. I was 21. I was going to SFU at the time. And I was kind of bouncing around to whatever interests me: geography, philosophy, just no direction. And getting into the bank at 21, it kind of set me on the stage of, getting into things like economics and stuff like that. And it was not something that I expected. And it was something that is just gradually over, 15 years now, has just evolved into what it is now. And it's just been like a natural progression year after year, just trying to get better.
So, I mean, that got you into the bank, and then starting at the bank, ultimately getting to being a mortgage broker in the channel. What did that path look like, and why did you make the pivot to the channel?
Yeah, so like working for the bank, I think honestly, it was not fun. It was not great, but it was really, really useful. When you get into banking, they basically break it up into 5 areas. There's like everyday banking, there's loans and mortgages, there's investments, credit cards, and insurance. You're going to go one direction. Once you're in there, it's like kind of like the school for everything, and you kind of pick what you want to specialize in. When I worked for the bank, I was 99% an investment guy. And what happened over time, working with the bank, I saw that there was a space to provide value in lending. Lending is really complicated, and everyone is like 30% at best knowledgeable about it. So there's a huge gap in what a professional could provide in that area, whereas I just didn't see the same opportunity in the other areas. And that's what kind of got me in 2017 to make the switch to specialize in lending. So my last year at the bank, I just sponged it, took everything I could, and I got as much information as I could. And then I just kind of wanted to make the leap to kind of representing the client in the transaction, because I was so used to representing the bank in every transaction, right? When you work for a bank, ultimately that is who you're answering to. It's despite what anyone's, that's your boss, right? And I kind of just wanted to change who I was representing in the transaction. And then in 2017, had a friend who was a mortgage broker on the island, and said, "Why don't you come on over?" And it's kind of, that was it.
Yeah, it's neat with the bank is I find that, I mean, respectfully, most people that walk out, they kind of feel as though they outgrow it. But what the banks do a really good job at, in my opinion, is they train people really well. How do you understand credit? How do you work with clients? The care that you need to develop and foster long-term relationships. So I find some of the best brokers in this space have come from that channel because they've had a lot of that, that really in-depth training and how do you take clients and kind of, almost make them clients for life, but they really train you well throughout the whole process. And it does serve a lot of the brokers quite well that do come from that space.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that I think that it helps in two senses. It helps that in that you're getting trained, but it also helps that you are getting experience without it being on your shoulders 100%. You know what I mean? You represent the bank. No one says when you work for a bank, it's never, it's just my local branch. It's not the relationship we have now with clients where it's like, I am as a person their mortgage broker. It's more of just like you're hidden in this corporation, right? So yeah, it's really beneficial. You learn, like, I made a lot of mistakes working for the bank, and I learned there, and I'm glad that I took that opportunity to learn. And then when I entered and started on my own, I kind of through learning the hard way, I was able to kind of make it work.
Those are really good points that both you and Jason made, just in regards to like being at the bank, learning so much. Like it certainly is like an education, right?
Totally,
Which is excellent for a lot of reasons. But then, the comfort that it provides of being able to make the mistakes, being surrounded by all of this other,
Totally.
leadership and education,
Support, yeah.
that makes it hard to leave. It also makes it very hard on the other side, starting out as a mortgage broker. There's a lot of bankers out there, especially now with just so many changes in regulations, being so much harder to fit loans at certain institutions, needing potentially other lending institutions to fund, loan opportunities and what have you. There's a lot of bankers out there that are looking to make the change, but are obviously staying because of the comfort and all the things we just talked about. Like what ultimately allowed you to disconnect from that? And then what was the hardest part on the other side?
Yeah, like leaving is taking a jump, right? You can say what you want. You're taking a jump. You got to really believe in yourself when you do it. And like, I think that, you work long enough for a bank and you have those 5 buckets that you have to fill, the credit cards, all this stuff. At some point, you're going to specialize in something. Just your career progression will have you specialize in something. And I think at that point, when I had the skills, I was ready to jump ship. Obviously, the hardest part about it is when you are an independent mortgage broker, you don't have that safety net always that sometimes you have at the bank where, you can go to your manager. Like, it's really up to you to kind of make things work, right? One thing I really like about, the biggest appeal for me was touching on what you said about banks having to send files to different lenders. Having access to one credit department can be incredibly frustrating because you can have very, very strong files that don't fit in those boxes, right? And then you can have weak files that do fit in the boxes. But having access to multiple lenders is really, really, it makes it so that you can almost always find a home for a file, depending on what kind of file. You can always find something. But at the bank, it could get frustrating because of their boxes are quite niche, right? Different lenders have different preferences. So.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. I mean, as we've seen the landscape of this industry change, regulations are harder. There's just not as many places where you can fit these clients in that one particular financial institution. So yes, taking the leap and kind of being more on your own is a challenging thing to do. But I would say that for your referral sources and for your clients, they're going to have a lot of security in you, knowing that you do have multiple options and there's different paths that we can take with a client to really make sure that you're getting them the best thing for them. It's not just what this one specific bank offers. You have a multitude of choices that you can use to help put your clients in the right spot. So, I think anytime you look at making a switch, the good, does it outweigh the bad? Typically, the answer is yes when you have more choice and more flexibility. But yeah, I can definitely see why that it becomes a challenge to, inevitably decide if that's what you're going to do.
Nobody benefited more from me leaving the bank than my referral partners. Because, if you're referring someone a file, you want that file to be closed. And for someone to have access to different lenders, you're just going to have more solutions. So like my referral partners loved when I left the bank. They thought it was great because now all their files are finding a home somewhere.
I have a comment on that because it's actually, I find it funny, but before I get there, I just want to wrap up. Like, was there ever a moment in that transition when you became a broker where you're like, shoot, did I make a mistake here?
Yeah, there was, yeah.
And what was that?
Yeah, so there was big time. So the first year I became a broker was 2017. I had like some pretty quick success the first couple months. It was just, I think it's because I was really like just so gung-ho, right? Just doing all the things, getting myself in front of everyone I could. And then it got to December, and like in you learn real estate kind of, it's December's a slow time. So is, sometimes January. And I remember the first year I was living with a girl in North Burnaby at the time, and we got to Christmas, and it was a pretty slow Christmas. It was, I borrowed $7,500 from my mom. And like looking back on that now, it's like I just need to pay my mortgage and pay for Christmas, right? And like looking back on that now, it's like it's just such a it's almost like a fond memory, like I can't believe I had to go through that at that time. But there was a moment when I was sitting there, and it was like day 6 or 7 of pasta, where it was like, okay, maybe this wasn't the best idea, right?
Was that transition hard because you were getting business from being at the bank, or were, because I know a lot of folks that make the transition that ultimately end up going back, because we've seen that, relied on the bank so much for the business that they got from just being at the bank. Was that ever a piece for you?
Not for me. I think it depends on what type of person you are and how you get your business. For me, I kind of view business as just business in general as like a whole thing. So like in my transactions, there's lawyers involved, there's accountants involved, there's realtors involved, there's all these different professionals, and like you are creating business together. At the bank, there's not those type of relationships really. It's more of just like, someone comes to see a teller says, okay, you don't need a mortgage, go talk to this guy, you go, and everyone's getting a 5-year fixed, because that's what we sold at those times, right? So like that, for me, it was never, the banking referral source was never a big thing for me, but I can see how for some people, depending on how they operate, how that would be really scary, because now you're out in the world and you're having to create your own business, right? And that's why that first year, like line of credit and like ramen, huge for me, huge. Yeah.
So I just want to touch on that one piece you mentioned, like your referral partners being happy that you made the change. I've talked to a lot of successful banker to brokers that were quite surprised at how many more referrals started coming from their top referral partners, and they're wondering like, oh shoot, you must have had another guy, like
yeah.
And then all of a sudden now they're just coming to you because you can actually do everything.
Exactly.
Did you experience any of that?
I did, yeah. I think that people are smart. People, especially business people, they're smart. They know they want to work with people who will find solutions to problems. That's what they want. And when and again, having access to just that one credit department, your hands are just simply tied, right? So, becoming like that guy who can like just get things figured out, like, I don't love really difficult files, but I find them really fulfilling. So, if there's difficult files coming across, like I like to try to find a home for those, because there is a home. It's just a matter of like little truffle pig, right? Like where could it be? You're just finding it where it is.
Well, I think like we work so hard to get referrals and build business. And one of the quickest ways that you could kill a referral source is to have the realtor, as an example, refer you a client, and you say, well, I'm sorry, I can't get them approved at this bank. You have nowhere else to go. Well, then they reach out to a broker or somebody else that's easily able to get that application approved.
Yeah.
That takes their confidence level in you down. Granted, it's not your fault. It's just not fitting the box that the bank has set out. But it looks bad on the broker. Hey, this person can get it done, but you can't. Well, the next file that comes up, likely, I mean, we're in the way of them getting the realtor getting their commission by not being able to get a client approved.
100%.
So, I think from a confidence level, having that choice, as I mentioned, is a big thing, but also just having that one lender is a way to lose a relationship if you're not able to get applications across the line.
100%. And what you said about it being not your fault, like ultimately, you are at, you can draw up a credit application very poorly. You can. And you can draw it up really well and it can go through, but ultimately it's we're asking for credit approvals here, right? So like if it's not being approved by head office and you're not getting the exceptions you need, and like I think it actually does transfer to the broker world too, like where there are brokers there who are skilled brokers who get files done. They get files done. There's a file, like they figure out a way to get it done. And I think that happens in banking, and in the broker world it happens too, but to be able to just find homes and good solutions for people, and like sometimes it's really, really difficult, but when it works out, like it's very fulfilling, as I said.
I find so much value in like understanding that transition, because so many people go through it. Like a lot of mortgage brokers are bankers. Transitioning, what would you say is the biggest factor that's influenced your business now and in the banking side of things? Like what would be that one piece that you'd say impacted you the most?
I think it's like kind of like stereotypical, but I think you really have to love people. I think you have to, because like for me, my biggest referral source is clients that I've worked with. And so, you know, being, wanting to be involved with people, dealing with people, like at the bank, it was like that. Um, just being a sponge too, you want to be a sponge you look at people who you admire, look at people who are successful, look at people who are driven, and then, take a little bit of that from every person. And I think that, yeah, and like people and connections, that's the biggest thing. Ultimately, that's what will fuel, I think, success in any business is building connections with, and also just working with like people you really enjoy spending time with, because it makes life exponentially more interesting and fun.
I had the pleasure of getting to know you while I was at my previous capacity at Mortgage Architects, and that was one of the things that actually drew me towards you and wanting to work with you is I got a really good sense that you really cared about your clients, you cared about giving them the best outcome. You're very respectful and spoke well, and you're just kind of one of those guys that I had an automatic draw to, and I have to imagine that your clients feel that way as well. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, that's probably the best way I could sum it up when I think about you is I think about somebody that really cares about the client and wanting to make sure that you're doing right by them and getting them into the best position possible for them. So that your answer was immediately went to my mind.
Yeah, and like I thought about this when I was at the dentist, like no one really loves going to the dentist. Like it's never going to be something you wake up and you're like, oh, great, dentist today. And I think it's kind of the same with residential financing. Like no one's going to wake up, jump out of bed, be like, I can't wait to go through mortgage applications today. And just like trying to make the process as enjoyable or painless as it can be. I think I really value that. Like I would never use the word fun. I'm not trying to make this a fun experience, but I'm just trying to make this something that is not, oh God, we have to do this today. It's like, hey, yeah, we got a call with Alex at 3. Let's do this type thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great point. Like the people and connections is so huge, and you do have to like people to do this job because there is so much communication involved. And I was just on another podcast recently that the question came up around AI and is AI going to take over our jobs? And like we've talked about this internally quite a bit. We truly don't believe AI will replace us, but I do believe it would replace components of our business, which it already has. I believe it will, like the humans like us that aren't using it to leverage the business will probably replace the humans that aren't using it. But at the end of the day, I find even in the earlier generation that are coming through the home buying process now, as much as like we think they want tech and they don't want to talk to humans, like they're the actual generation that wants to have their hand held more than anything. And just knowing how long you've been in finance, the amount of issues that come up in a file, no matter what it is, no matter what you do to avoid them, like things come up, and problem solving is so important. And I feel like that component of, one, being able to solve the problem, but two, actually being able to like nurture the humans through it
Totally
is so key. And so like that's where the people and connections and that enjoyment would come
Yeah,
from.
I couldn't agree more. I think that like I was shocked when I bought a house a couple of years ago and how I do this every day of my life. And when I was doing it for myself, it was a completely different feeling. And I can totally see the value in having your hand held through this process. 100%, because you're not buying apples. It's, what I mean? Like, it's something you're doing here, and having trust and support. And, one thing I like to do that not everyone likes is I really like to educate my clients on things. Sometimes they're just like, Alex, just do it. Just get it done. I go, okay. But sometimes they're like, hey, I'd like to learn about this stuff, how it works, and like, I think it's important to know how things work, right?
Well, and if you take the educational approach, you can discover other opportunities together as a group of people, right?
Totally.
Like looking at, actually forecasting what this is going to look like based on a product, why you're taking this product, what other options might come up down the road from a rental property perspective.
Yeah.
If you're not talking and educating, then there's really no plan involved. And then you might as well just go to a robot in that case.
Totally. Yeah.
Right?
Because like you got to think of it. Well, this is how I think of it. Ultimately, like if you look at a mortgage, I don't know if it's like our parents' fault or something. It's someone's fault. But people will go, okay, well, what's the rate? You go, okay, this is the rate. They don't think of things like payout penalties. They don't think of any options going forward. How does, like, for me, there's tax efficiency. There's a lot of things to think about. At the end of the day, I just want the most money in my client's pocket as possible. And however that looks. And that's why, like, I find really rewarding is like repeat clients who were starting to build like a little real estate portfolio. I'm not talking 30 condos. I'm talking they have a house they live in. They got 2 rentals. Great. And I think that, these kind of planning sessions, like they're really, really fun. Like I personally, it's probably the favorite part of my job. And it's kind of selfishly because I think like, when this person is 60 and they're sitting on a beach somewhere with their little rental portfolio, my work has been very, very, very important for this person, right? Whether they realize it or not, I like knowing that. And I think that when they're down there and they're having their little whatever lemon juice or whatever, and they're hanging out, I like to know that I really helped them do that. And that's where like looking at this whole thing as a huge picture, right? Your whole life as like banking, finance in general. It is mortgages. It's rentals. It's how are you cash flowing? How are you being tax efficient? It's a whole thing to try to create something for the future.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure how many clients actually drink straight lemon juice, but they, to your point though, I mean, the clients always have to know that you care. And if you're not treating the client like a transaction that's just kind of get in, let me get paid, and I'm on my way to the next one, and you're actually trying to build a plan for them for life, they know that you care. And one of the points that you brought up earlier was how you're communicating. I mean, we're in this every day. So yeah, we get asked the same questions, routine every day. And some brokers, they actually get annoyed. I can't believe this person's asking me this question. But we have to remember, like, this could be the first or second time they've ever done this. Granted, we do it all the time. Like, we have to foster that and develop that and make sure that they're comfortable and they know exactly what they're getting into. And to me, that's what's really going to create a long lasting business is you're going to have people coming back to you. They want to hear from you. They want to work with you. And they're not seeing your name come across the call display saying, oh my God, here's my broker. This is Alex calling me. This is good. I like this guy. Like, we want to work together. He has my back. And that's what's always going to build that long-standing business.
Yeah, I agree. And that's like, if we circle back to how this thing started with like the transition to be a broker, like that is why I left the bank, is because that's the exact feeling that I wanted. I wanted to represent the person, and, kind of like I view it almost like a team. I don't know if all my clients view it as that, but like we're a team, we're trying to accomplish something. And I think that that's why, yeah, when you call them like, like let's do something, let's boogie, right?
Yeah. So as we pivot into just client relationships, it appears like your approach is certainly building the relationship with education, maintaining, a strong rapport that way. But like, how do you ensure a smooth experience for your clients? And like, can you share a memorable client experience in general?
Yeah. So for me, like in banking, it's kind of called being like a high touch person. Like my clients have my cell phone number. They text me. They send me pictures of the kid's birthday, being like, hey, first birthday in the house. Awesome, right? There's a lot of communication between me and my clients in general. Some other brokers I talk to think it's an introductory call might be an hour long, right? Just to talk about things, talk about jobs, plans, stuff like this. Is it a super efficient way to have when you're busy? Probably not. But is it, understanding people and trying to take the next step? I think so. And so with my clients, yeah, it's definitely a lot of communication through the process. I like to, we're a team. We're going through this together. You're getting updates when I'm getting updates. And also like me, I think something that I do kind of differently is that there's a lot of it's me personally. They are, I'm texting them, I'm calling them. When they pick it up, they're not going to my assistant. They're going to me. They say, hey, I have a question. I saw this in the house. Is this a problem? Oil tank leaking. Yeah, that might be a problem. You might not want to buy that place. But, some things, you're just doing it together. You're just going through the process. In terms of client experiences, like, I feel like every single client I have is like some sort of experience. And I think that I could give you like a dozen examples just from this year. I think that for me, having clients like that milestone accomplishment thing. I had a client who was just last month, single mom. She's like, hey, I went to my bank. I know my friend just told me to call you. Just give you a call, right? We chatted for an hour, and like, I don't know, I think they got a pre-approval for like $300,000. And she wants to buy North Van, right? Whatever it is. It's not good. She's in trouble. So we ended up rewriting the file, redoing some things, changing things around, and then she ended up closing on a place last month. And it was really it just feels nice because like, she had her friends over, her daughter had her friends over, she's close to a good school. Like, I'm not trying to sound sappy here, but like, honestly, it feels really nice because like she had no hope. She's like, well, this is just how it is. I'm just going to rent forever. Right. It's like, okay, well, it is, or we could just try. There's no harm in trying. And and so like those files that are like, that was just one off the top of my head, but those are really like morally rewarding files.
It's like an unexpected moment for them ultimately, which is a good one, and it's going to lead to so much happiness and success. That's cool. I like that. Okay, what does a day-to-day operations look like? Like, what is a typical day for you, and how do you stay organized, especially during busy times?
So my strategy is probably not the best strategy. What I do when it's really busy is I just work harder and longer. I could definitely have more systems, be more efficient with my time. But for me, what I do is like I basically break my day up into 3 parts. This is what I try to do. So in the morning, it's a lot to do with the banks, dealing with files, dealing with things like this. And then in the afternoon, it's more dealing with my personal stuff, like my business, my systems, how things are interacting. And then in the evenings, it's dealing with clients. People work during the day. I have a call tonight. I have indoor golf league, and then I have a call at 10 p.m. tonight because the client, one's a cop, one works in the service industry. They need to talk. They need to do something. They have a place closing. They got to figure it out, right? So we got to call 10 tonight. So I think that by breaking the day up into different areas of the day works for me. I think that breaking the day up also helps it seem not so monotonous sometimes. Like, some days, like you deal with banks all day, it can be really, really not the most fun day. And I think by breaking up, it works well. And then for me, it's really important to take breaks in my day to do things like go for a walk, go ride my bike, just like something to clear my brain so I can get back and like I'm in a good mood, good mindset to kind of move forward. I think that, looking back at banking, being in the office all day, it's not really my scene, just sitting there in the suit. I think breaking up the day is really important.
Well, I can pretty much guarantee you that your banker is not going to call you at 10 p.m. at night. So, I think what you do in breaking up the day is that's what you do, and that's how you find your success. And I think a lot of the time people are just trying to find this magic bullet and what do they have to do to, get to your level as an example, but there's no right or wrong answer. Like you just have to do what you need to do to make sure that you're feeling efficient and you can move on. So maybe, like you said, it's a half an hour walk. I know you got your dog and all that. Maybe it's just playing with the dog for a little bit to just kind of recalibrate and allow yourself to get back into the swing of it so you can take that 10 p.m. call. So breaking up the day, I think is always a good way to look at things and kind of, helps you stray away from the monotony.
And keeping yourself like in the zone, right? Or maybe not the zone, but keeping yourself in a place where you want to move forward, you want to work, you want to talk to people, you want to connect, right? I don't ever want to find myself in a place during a day where I wish I didn't have that call, or I wish I didn't have to do this right now. I wish this, my phone rings. Oh, I don't want to ever be that guy, right? So yeah, breaking up the day is huge, and just finding self-care during the day, huge thing.
I mean, that segues well into just some personal development stuff. I know you're an avid golfer. You've mentioned things like biking, walking to break up the day. That's clearly how you're probably maintaining that healthy work-life balance. Is there anything else in that mix that, maybe helps you from a balance perspective, stay happy and be able to do the things you love to do?
Yeah, for me, I'd say the most important thing is my calendar. I actually hate it about myself, but it's just the way it is. I just like, if something is booked into my calendar, whether it's a call, whether it's a meeting, whether it's golfing, whatever it is, if it's there, it allows me to be present. If it's not in the calendar, I'll find myself like on the golf course. It's a Sunday afternoon, and I'm refreshing my emails, right? Checking to things, or you know what I mean? Like, just there's not that level of presenceness, and it starts to become a problem is when it's your nephew's birthday and you're sitting there texting, working on a file, right? And that calendar and breaking up the day into pieces, and like this is I'm dedicated to this for this hour. This is my call, that they get 100% of my attention. There's nothing else going on. For me, that's huge.
That's huge. I mean, there's clearly a theme of time blocking in general with your day, just given the way you're breaking it up, how religious you are on that calendar, which is so crucial. I mean, that whole time blocking approach I found very successful for myself as well. Time blocking to me comes directly from books and podcasts that I've read or listened to. Is there any books, podcasts, or resources that you'd recommend that would help you or help others?
I read a book a couple months ago. It was a book, I think it was called Building Habits or something Habits.
Atomic Habits.
Atomic Habits.
Yeah.
Man, that book blew my mind. It blew my mind.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
it's
a
just
great
like,
one.
it's because the reason I like that book is because it's not saying to run a marathon. It's not saying to do these crazy things. It's like just the only thing is consistency, and I started applying that to areas of my life. You think of things you don't want to do, like, I don't want to work on my taxes. The year's coming to an end. 20 minutes a day. Just do 20 minutes a day every single day, and it's done. It's the same thing with anything to do with work, with personal life. I thought that book, it almost seemed like cheating how easy things become when they become every day. This is just what happens, right? You build the habit,
Yeah.
and some people who do like outbound calls for, they don't want to do it. They got to get their calls in. Yeah, just doing it five at a time. That's it, and then it just becomes normal.
I couldn't agree more. James Clear, who wrote that book, was actually a speaker at the DLCG conference a couple years back, and like that's when I was introduced to him, introduced to the book, and like it is a cheat code. It totally is. I couldn't agree more. Okay, let's jump into some tools, tips, and tactics. Is there any tools or software or anything essential that helps you in your daily work?
Yeah. So I'd say the thing, like, in terms of my customer relationship management, that's a work in progress, building out systems and stuff like that. We're working on that. For me, because I'm such a high touch broker, we're always in touch with our clients. I like to have a quiet place to work, and I really, really enjoy noise canceling headphones. It is incredible how helpful that has been for me, because I spend a ton of time on the phone, like so much time. You think, oh, $400 for headphones. Wow. Would do that. If I was to go back in time, I would have done that all the time. Greatest idea. Again, yeah, my calendar is huge for me. My team is really, really awesome. The girls who work for me, they are, like, finding people you like to work with is super, super important. Like, I can't say enough, because everything feels great all the time. It's not a struggle to going to work and being like, I don't want to deal with these people. It's very, it's dynamic, and I love it. Yeah, I'd say like I would say, in terms of like, if I was to have tips for someone, it'd be like, whether it's a referral partner, even your clients, work with people you want to work with. Like, sometimes I'll have a client that's just not a good fit. For some reason or other, just like, you know what, we're just not vibing. It's not, I don't want to spend 100 hours with you.
Fair.
Fair, right? So, working with people who, again, going back to me being so people focused, like working with people you love to spend time with. Like, that's why I like coming to the office, right? I think it's great. I like I can work from home, hang out with the dog, make an omelet, whatever I want to do. I'm at my house, right? Or I can come here, and it's just, for me, being around people who are kind of like-minded, wanting to grow. People are huge for this. Like, it's number one.
I think it's always the energy. Like, I've always found being in an office environment and you see other people kind of buzzing around and busy doing their own thing.
Totally.
Like, just by default, you kind of pick up and feed off of that energy as well. I remember, we all think back during COVID times when we're all locked into our house and just working solo. Like, it was very challenging to get yourself up to do some of those tasks that you were talking about. So I like to be in an environment with I don't want to call it chaos, but stuff going around and watching people be productive. I just kind of want to circle back with, you talk about your calendar, and I think you're kind of newly starting to really work through your CRM. Is this stuff that you're kind of morphing into, or did you like start early and say, I need to use my calendar every day? Or is it something that you just felt the need to do to stay more efficient?
With the calendar thing, it was like, what's it called? Lesson by fire. There's a saying. Anyways, I learned the hard way. I was like, why does it always seem like I'm struggling to keep up? And why am I not, enjoying my moments, because I'm not super present in that? There's always some, like, going to bed and having 5 files on the back of your mind, trying to think, well, how can I do that? Okay, well, that's the rental offset. Okay, we can take it here. You know what I mean? That's not how I want to live my life. And by blocking these times, for me, it's just like, I had to do it. I had to learn how to be efficient. With the CRM thing, like, in terms of customer relationship management, a huge source of my referrals, like massive, is previous clients. So I want to stay in touch with them, but I kind of want to do it differently than what other brokers do. Like, I want it to be much more personable. Like, I don't want it to be super automated. I want it to be like, just like our relationship is. And like, I don't want to get calls being like, hey, are you still a mortgage broker? Like, that's not good. You don't want that when you're a mortgage broker, right? You want people to know you're still a mortgage broker. But yeah, like, I just want to be in touch with people more, and also have them feel like this guy doesn't just do transaction and then, okay, now what, right? Let's plan for the next one. Let's see what we're going to do.
All right, looking ahead and wrapping up here. So What are your goals for next year, and how do you see the mortgage industry evolving, and how are you preparing for that?
Next year's an interesting one. I think that like lending has become quite complicated. It wasn't always this hard, right? Good credit, T4 income, boom, right? It's becoming complicated. There's a lot of different things to know. And I think that in the future, as governments are changing things, interest rates are changing, affordability is a huge issue. There's a lot of things to be addressed. And I think that just you're going to have to be really on top of your game moving forward. Like, it's not going to be like, okay, this is simple, let's just put it together. You're going to have to know policies like the back of your hand. You're going to have to know what's happening, politically. You're going to have, like, these things are important. They affect people's lives. People don't really think about how important things that they read on the news actually affects. Wow, that's why my Apple's $2 now. You know what I mean? And I think that for 2025, like, there's a lot of mortgages coming for renewal next year. And I think that it's now more important than ever to talk to people and not just accept, well, this is just the way it is. I guess I'll just, rent, or I guess I'll just live on ramen this entire year, right? Like, there are solutions. They just the conversations need to be happening to, like, create a solution. It's not just going to fall into people's laps like it traditionally has.
I couldn't agree more with that. I mean, like, we're professionals and this is our job, and our job is to understand what's going on, understand what lenders are doing, understand policies, understand what's going on in the world, because this is a very important thing for us to be able to coach our clients around in terms of what we know is going to happen. And I think the best brokers are the ones that are really staying up to date with what is happening in the industry, and not just in the industry, but outside influences that could affect the industry. So I think everybody's going to have to level up their game coming into next year and really staying on top of all these pending changes.
Yeah, I think this next year is going to be one that we haven't really seen before, and I think that people are, they watch global news, they open the paper, and there's these ideas that are told to them. Oh, yeah, no one can afford anything. That's not really how it works. People can afford things. You can buy. You don't have to be a millionaire. You can accomplish your goals. It's just going to take a little bit of work traditionally. And now I think it's just going to take a little bit more work. And I just think that there's a lot of value in understanding people's life situations and what they're able to do and what they're maybe not able to do.
Yeah, well said. Okay, this is an interesting question. If you could go back to Alex, North Burnaby, just starting out in the mortgage industry, it doesn't have to be broker, but just when you first became a mortgage professional, what advice would you give yourself?
I probably would have tried to align myself with like kind of where I am now type thing. Like, I would have wanted to align myself with people who are leaders in the industry. And like, Jason, I actually said this to you when I was joining MA originally. Like, I'm very okay being a sea-doo behind a cruise ship. Super okay.
That's well said.
You know what I mean?
I like that.
Because the waves are choppy out there sometimes. And when you're on the sea-doo, you're going to, you're self-employed now. You got bills to pay. You have employees. It can be scary, right? And I think that, aligning yourself with the right people and letting them break the water. And I'm happy to sit in the wake and just cruise along doing my thing, right? That's huge, because for a long time I kind of wasn't doing that, and it was just unnecessary how much waves I was hitting that I could have just ignored just by aligning myself with people who are heading the same direction.
I like that a lot. Yeah, it's really good. I don't really have a whole much more to say than that. I mean, the one thing I would like to just share with our listeners is, if anyone wants to connect with you, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Ooh, they can jump on my Instagram. They can DM me. They can email, whatever they want. Like, I love people, and I think that anyone who has questions and wants to have a chat should legitimately just reach out. Be like, hey, that guy seems like a good guy. Let's chat, because I would love to actually chat with them.
Awesome. I know you're like that. That's how we started talking in the early days. So we'll include all your links in the show notes. And yeah, I mean, unless you have any other closing thoughts or comments, like, we really thank you for coming on. This was great.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Thank you for tuning in. If you found value in this show, please subscribe to our channel on your preferred platform. We're available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Your support is incredibly appreciated. We also welcome your reviews and feedback, which are crucial in helping us deliver outstanding educational content. Feel free to share your thoughts. A 5-star review would be fantastic if you think we earned it. Lastly, a vital announcement about Backpack Buddies, our chosen charity for 2024. This remarkable organization addresses a hidden hunger hunger issue many are unaware of. In British Columbia, while school districts provide meals during school hours, numerous children face food scarcity at home, particularly during weekends. Backpack Buddy steps in to support these vulnerable children, ensuring they have easy to prepare, familiar food for weekends. This is achieved through collaborations with schools and an extensive distribution network. Your contribution can make a significant difference. With just $20, you can give a child in need a food bag from Backpack Buddies filled with enough meals and snacks to sustain them over the weekend and more. Once again, thank you for listening and see you on the next one.